Gone are the days when they chose us for work. Just like the college, they told you what to major in. You can't tell them. You can't get what you want. You just take what they give you. It's mercy, You can't say, I want justice, Today, you have the option of choosing. So it's important how you choose.
Be glorified. 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 Be glorified in the heavens. Be glorified in the earth. Be glorified in this temple. Jesus, Jesus, be thou glorified. Oh Jesus, 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 be thou glorified. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord. Let's worship the Lord again. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord. Worship Him. Worship Him. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord in the heavens. Worship the Lord in the earth. Worship the Lord in this temple. Jesus, oh Jesus, be thou glorified. Oh, glorify Jesus, 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 be thou. Oh Jesus, we worship you. Jesus, Jesus, be thou glorified. Jesus, Jesus, be thou. Oh, let's exalt Jesus in our midst. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, be thou glorified.
It's worldly wisdom, worldly knowledge. You get so much of it, but it just frustrates you even more. More than ever, you're frustrated, you're distressed by it, he says. But then, since he didn't find it in wisdom and understanding and learning, he's now trying to find meaning for life in something else, that is pleasure. He goes after pleasure now. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, but surely this also was vanity. I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth, what does it accomplish? I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly till I might see what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. He said, while I was getting educated and while I was getting the wisdom, I saw some people were drinking. And I thought maybe I should try that also. Maybe in that there is something, He says, up-to-date book this is. This is not old. This is current reality. He says, I made my works great. I built myself houses and planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the special treasures of kings and of the provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of the sons of men, and musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me. In Jerusalem also my wisdom remained with me. Right? The learning is still there. Now he's getting into pleasure. Learning didn't accomplish what he was looking for. It didn't give him meaning for life. So he's kept the learning, but he's now adding to it pleasure. Whatever my eyes desired, listen to this. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my reward from all my labor. He says, I didn't keep anything that my eyes desired. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure. Here is a guy who has tried everything in the world. One time one guy said, I'm going to try that also. I said, don't try, just read this. Don't waste your time. This guy has gone through it, never left anything, tried A to Z, everything. And read his conclusion. That is why Ecclesiastes is given. This guy has tried everything. Don't waste your money, don't waste your time, don't waste your effort. Just read. This guy says, I have tried everything. Nothing that my eyes saw, nothing that my heart desired, I kept from it. I gave it all. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, on the labor in which I had toiled. And indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. He has built houses, orchards, and built everything so that he can have pleasure. He tried drinking, he tried everything in the world. Nothing that his eyes desired, nothing that his heart desired, he kept from it, gave it all. He went gung-ho on everything, just full speed, and tried everything. Nothing worked. He says, all meaningless. Meaningless, he says. So now he has tried wisdom, and then he tried pleasure. The third thing, he's trying to work, he's going to try work. Now I still have not left my subject. Some of you are looking at me and say, what are you talking about? You're supposed to talk about work. I am talking about work. To come to this third point only, I went through the first 2 points. So the third thing he tries to find meaning for life is work. He thinks that work, if he gets fully into it, like he got into learning and like he got into pleasure, if he gives himself fully to it and work and work and work and really give himself to it, somehow he'll find the meaning of life. So he goes into work. And Ecclesiastes 2, 17 onwards. Let's read 17 onwards. Therefore I hated life, because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me, for all is vanity and grasping for the wind. Then I hated all my labor in which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he'll be wise or a fool? See, he's thinking about death. He says, I'm doing all of these things. He says, he's gotten into work now, into labor, really works night and day, tries very hard, and he goes through the toil of work. But then, all of a sudden, the thought comes to him, why am I doing all this? For what? For who? I'm going to die one day. There's a guy going to come after me. I don't know whether he's going to be a fool or wise, good or bad. What kind of a person is going to come after me? Why should I work so hard and store up so much for that guy to come and enjoy? You can see how frustrating that will be. He won't feel like going back to work tomorrow morning, if he feels like that. He's now thinking about death. Death is what frustrates him. If there was no death, just imagine, if there was no death, it won't be so frustrating. He'll say, well, I'm going to live forever and ever. I'm going to enjoy the fruit of my labor. I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to enjoy life forever and ever. And he'll go to work and do his best. The fact that sin has brought death, and death has become an inevitable reality of life, is so frustrating. Makes life meaningless. To the question, why should I do this? For who I'm doing this? There is no answer. Because you're going to die. He says, verse 21, for there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he must leave his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. This also is vanity and great evil. He says, I labor, I do everything, and I store up, and guy who comes behind me will not have to labor so much. He's already got it. This is meaningless. A great evil, he says. For what has man for all his labor and for the striving of his heart, with which he has toiled under the sun? I mean, what do you get for toiling all your life, he says. For all his days are sorrowful and all his work burdensome. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. This also is vanity, meaningless. He says, every day is hard, sorrowful, burdensome. Even at night you can't have rest. You're thinking about work, and the problems at work, and challenges at work, and so on. Work is weary. Nothing is better for a man than he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. For who can eat or who can have enjoyment more than I? For God gives wisdom and knowledge, and to a man who's good in his sight. But to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before God. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Another thing that frustrates him is, for one man God gives the wisdom and knowledge and joy to the man who is good in God's sight. But to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting and storing up, so that he may give to him who is good before God. In other words, I work and earn and do everything, and I gather up. And to the other fellow, God just gives him wisdom and understanding and joy so that he can enjoy it. This is evil. This is bad. There is no justice in this system. Why should I work and let somebody have the fruit of it? Death literally frustrates him. The fact that he will die one day makes everything a waste, gives no meaning for anything in life. Death is frustrating. It really is. When you think of it, and people don't understand life as the Bible teaches, then death becomes if you don't understand life, then you'll have problem understanding death. And like Paul says in 2 Timothy chapter 4, where he comes to the end of his life, he realizes that he's going to die. He's very near death. He says, I'm being poured out like a drink offering, he says. In the Old Testament, there was a drink offering where they'll bring a vessel full of some drink and pour it out before the Lord until every drop is poured out. He views life like that. Life is like you come like a full jar, and you are every day being poured out. Your life is being poured out. What God has put within you is poured out for the benefit of others, for the glory of God. It's like an offering to God. Do you know that your life itself is an offering to God? It's not what you bring really. It is you bring yourself. Your life itself is an offering. You're every day being poured out. That's the way Paul views life. He says, I'm poured out every day. And till the last drop is gone, I'm being poured out, he says. And he says, I've come to the last drops. I'm going to come to the end of my life very soon, he says. Then he says, I fought the good fight, kept the faith. A crown of righteousness is there for me, waiting for me, he says. He's got a view of life. And then that leads to a good view of death. First, he talks about life. What is life? To him, it's a drink offering where God has put something within you and you pour it out in this world for the benefit of others, for the glory of God. You are being poured out. That's how you live your life until the last drop is poured out. You pour out everything that is in you. What God has given to you, you give it and spend it and live for God and glorify God. And then when you die, what is death? To Paul, death is something glorious. When the last drop is poured out, it's very glorious because you've done what you're called to do, and now you're going to go, and a crown is waiting for you. When your view of life is right, then your view of death is right. When your view of life is not there properly, then your view of death is very, very distressing, You think, my God, it's all going to come to an end. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And that kind of thing. But when your view of life is there, then you know what you're doing every day. You're being poured out. I'm going there. Today, if I'm preaching, I'm being poured out. Tomorrow, if I go somewhere and do something, I'm being poured out. Everything that I do is a pouring out. Where I go and do what God has told me to do, it's a pouring out of my life until the last day of my life. That's the way you view life, he says. Then, when the last day comes, for the last drop is poured out, to be poured out, then that will be the glorious day because you are now going to get a crown, So that death, the point of death becomes a glorious point, where you are going for your crown, So, here is a man looking for meaning for life. He searched it in wisdom, he couldn't get it. Searched it in pleasure, couldn't get it. He searched for it in work and couldn't get it. Now, work is what we are talking about. So let me say this. Work can be really frustrating if you, I'm sure you have all experienced it in some way or the other. It can be really frustrating. Work under the sun sometimes seem meaningless because it does not last forever. It is something that will come to an end, and therefore it takes away our future, So work is really frustrating. You're doing so much and you're trying so hard, trying to achieve certain things and so on. Sometimes the goals are not reached. But the thing is, whatever you have done contributes to the next person to come in, to build on that and go further. One person cannot do everything. But it becomes frustrating that you cannot live on forever and see the accomplishment of the things that you worked so hard for. That's what is frustrating about work. And so the preacher here experiences that frustration. He says, oh, it is frustrating. Now, the frustration comes today as a result of one or two things. One is, I think, the way we end up choosing our jobs. Today we live in a more privileged, life, I think, than any other society before us, probably. Today we have options. We can choose, Gone are the days when they chose us for work. Just like the college, they told you what to major in. You can't tell them. You can't get what you want. You just take what they give you. It's mercy, You can't say, I want justice, Today, you have the option of choosing. So it's important how you choose. And they did a study on how people choose, and they found out people choose basically along 3 lines. 3 things they consider when they choose a job. One is how much pay. That seems to be a very important item on the list. How much will you pay me? So they ask, how much will this pay? 1 lakh a month? All right. How much does that pay? 2 lakhs a month? Oh. So maybe I should study for that, It's 2 lakhs a month, That's the way it goes. So that is one way. And the other way is there are some people that have some noble thoughts. They want to do something in society, be a useful person. And they want the society to flourish as a result of work. So they think in those terms. They say, can I do something that is good for the society while at the same time I'm earning and so on. So they choose on the basis of that, and that's good. Nothing wrong with that. And then the third way that people choose is what they call the cool factor. You know, the word cool is a very cool word nowadays, you know. Is it cool? The profession, the job I'm going to get in, is it cool? That means, is it very impressive when I tell people what I'm doing? Does it impress people? You know, the cool factor. See, there is no thinking about who am I? What am I gifted for? What are my abilities? What am I passionate about? What do I like very much? What do I like to spend my whole life doing? No thinking about that. What do you pay? What can I do for the society? That's a noble thought, but that's not enough, you see. And the cool factor. Is it cool? The job I'm going to do. Is somebody going to hear me say what I'm doing, and are they going to say, hey, that's cool, man, you know. That's the cool factor. These are the three things based on which they choose what they're going to do. It has nothing to do with they don't consider so what? Because they don't consider the gifts or talents or abilities, their inclinations, their passion for certain things, they do not bring that into picture at all. They end up choosing on the basis of money or social benefits and social work or ability to bless others and then just the cool factor. What happens is this: they go and engage in a work, sometimes which has not, most of the time, which has nothing to do with their abilities and gifts and talents, and sometimes into some work which is beyond their abilities and gifts and qualification and talents. They get into something that is beyond them. They cannot perform well because their brain is not made like that. They are not made like that. They are not that kind of a person. They may do something else well, but not this. So they end up doing something that has nothing to do with their gifts or abilities or talents because they never gave any thought to that. See, when you're looking at your gifts and your abilities and talents, then you're really looking at what God has put within you. You don't have to look very far. When I say, you know, do something that God has made you to do, I'm not saying go and ask a prophet, you know, what you're made for, you know. What does he know? Unless God tells him very specifically about you or something, which is possible. But the thing is, that's not a good way always. The good way always is, and a good way for everybody, you know, is to look into themselves to see what they're passionate about, what they're gifted for, what they love doing for the rest of their lives, and what they really want to do, and get into that. And when you go into the wrong thing, then you get into something that is not, does not have anything to do with your gifts or abilities or liking. And it's beyond you sometimes, and that can be very frustrating. That can become very distressing for people. That is something that we all have to think about. So we want to choose something that we can do well, that has to do with who we are and our gifts and abilities and talents, right? That's so important in this world. That's a very basic thing, and we'll talk about more about it in the days to come. But the lessons from Ecclesiastes is this. Go back to the last chapter, verse 8. The man who introduced is now coming back. And he says, vanity of vanity, says the preacher, all is vanity. Now he's summarizing what the preacher has said. So the preacher says everything is meaningless. In New International Version, you will read meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. The preacher says everything is meaningless. And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yes, he pondered and sought out and set in order many proverbs. The preacher sought to find acceptable words, and what was written was upright, words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and the words of scholars are like are well-driven nails given by one shepherd. And he says, my son, be admonished by these. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. And now the conclusion, he says, here the conclusion of the whole matter. What is the conclusion? Very simple, he says, fear God and keep his commandments. For this is man's all.
He's turned my mourning into dancing again. He's lifted my sorrow. I can't stay silent. I must sing, for his joy has come. He's turned my mourning into dancing again. He's lifted my sorrow. I can't stay silent. I must sing, for his joy has come. Where there once was only hurt, he gave his healing hand. Where there once was only pain, he brought comfort like a friend. I feel the sweetness of his love piercing my darkness. I feel the bright and morning sun as it ushers in his joyful gladness. He's turned my mourning into dancing again. He's lifted my sorrow. I can't stay silent. I must sing, for his joy has come. He's turned my mourning into dancing again. He's lifted my sorrow. Where there once was only hurt, he gave his healing hand. Where there once was only pain, he brought comfort like a... Oh, do you feel it? I feel the sweetness of his love piercing my darkness. I feel the bright and morning sun as it ushers in